Aloha, Ron here, your Holo Holo Realtor with the Holo Holo Realty channel, and today I wanted to go over housing options when you PCS here to Hawaii. So for those of you who don't know what PCS is, it is permanent change of station. This is something our servicemen and women get orders for, taking them to a new duty station. So if you're watching this, I am assuming that you're probably getting ready to PCS here to Hawaii and wanted to kind of know what your housing options are when you get here. So you do have three housing options. That is rent, rent, and buy. And I know you're probably sitting there and saying, Ron, you just said three. Can you not count? You just said rent twice. No, you have three options, and that's rent, rent, and buy. You have the option to rent a home on post. By doing this, Uncle Sam is going to take all your BAH. So BAH, basic housing allowance. Uncle Sam's going to sit there and say, okay, you're renting from me, I'm going to take all your BAH, and then you're just left with your regular pay. Then your other option is renting off post. This, you can actually negotiate your rent. So say you know you're going to be here for 2 years and the landlord wants to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to rent to you for $2,300 a month, and you're like, hey, you know, I'm going to be here for 2 years and I want to rent from you for 2 years. Since I'm going to guarantee you 2 years in this rental, can I do it for $2,000 even? And you can negotiate like that. Your other option is buying. Now this is your most powerful option when you get out here. And I'm going to explain why here in a little bit, but I kind of wanted to cover over the rental options first. So with renting on post, if you're going to rent on post, you're going to be hey you'd a lot, and that means like, hey, you're on post and we need somebody for a detail. You're going to get called in most likely because you're already on post and you're close. You also, though, renting on post, it's going to be the most lenient when it comes to having animals. This is in the renter's aspect though, when it comes to renting. So it's going to be the most lenient on animals. Where if you rent off post, a lot of places around here have limitations on the size of the animal that you can have. For an example, I rented a place up in Mililani years ago when I first came here. They had a limitation of the dog could be no more than 16 pounds. So just something to think about when it comes, if you have pets and everything. Now, when it comes to buying, if you're going to have 3 years or more, buying's probably going to be a better option, and I'll explain why. So a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, well, Ron, I heard Hawaii is expensive. I can't afford to buy in Hawaii. It's going to be more expensive for me to buy than it is to rent. If I rent, all I'm going to do is pay the landlord and be done, and I don't have to worry about all these other things of what I have to worry about with purchasing a home. And I'm going to have a mortgage on a home, and it's probably going to be really expensive and everything. And you're wrong. I'm just going to be flat out wrong. So if you're looking at renting a home, you're probably on average, I would say, 20, give or take a couple $100, $2,200 we'll use as our average. So your first month's rent, $2,200. Well, now you need the deposit, so that's another $2,200. You're $4,400 now in your rental in the first month. By the way, you still got to pay next month's rent. You also got to get your utilities hooked up and cable and internet services and your first grocery haul. And we all know that the first time you ever get groceries, you're buying everything, the spices, all that cleaning supplies, everything. You're talking almost like $1,000 grocery bill out here in the first haul. So factor that in too. And then if you have pets, that's another $2,200. So you're $6,600. You haven't even done your first grocery haul, hooked up anything yet or anything. So you're looking at, close to like around $8,000 in 1 month just moving in, and you still have to pay for the following month. And you're not going to get a lot of that money back. And I don't know if anybody else's experiences, but when I've rented, I've repainted walls for them and everything. I still never got my full deposit back. So probably not going to get any of the money back. So and you're like, oh, it's only $8,000. It's probably going to be more to buy a home, right? Nope. So use your VA home loan. You're a service member. You're entitled to it. You don't have to wait to get out to use it. And you can use your tax-free BAH, that same tax-free money that if you were renting, you were just giving it to the landlord or back to Uncle Sam to do whatever they want to do with it, and not putting it back in your pocket, to where if you decide to buy, now you're going to put that money back into your pocket. And to kind of give you an idea of what that comes out to in 3 years, on an average, we'll take the ranking of an E5 as an average BAH rank, which out here is around, I think it's $2,990, which comes out to a little bit over $107,000 in 3 years. That you would have paid a landlord and not been able to get that money back. Or you can pay it into yourself, into your own home, and get a big portion of that back when it's time for you to sell. So now you're thinking, well, that sounds like a lot of money. Maybe he's onto something, but still it's going to be expensive to buy a home. And I can only imagine how much it's going to cost in like first month or so. So let's say if you do decide, hey, I'm going to buy a home, your offer gets accepted, and you're probably going to put around $1,000 in the initial deposit. So there's $1,000, and then the home inspection comes. If you cover the home inspection, then you're looking at about $500. And then after the home inspection, the additional deposit of another $1,000, you're $2,500. So $2,500, you're already cheaper than if you decided to rent with no pets. It was $4,400 with no pets. You're under $4,400 in the first month, and then you could still sit there and do your first grocery haul, bring all your utility, or get all your utilities and everything. But here's the kicker: that $2,500 that you just put out, $2,000 of that you're getting back at closing. Because you're using the VA home loan, you don't have to put any money down. So think of it this way: that $1,000 and that additional $1,000, that was an engagement ring and a wedding ring. All that's doing is sitting there and saying, hey, seller, I promise you I want to buy your home. And if I break this promise, you get to keep those funds for me breaking my promise. But because you're using the VA home loan, what you get to do is sit there and say, okay, seller, I met all demands, and I kept my promise, and I purchased your home. At closing, escrow sits there and says, hey, you can have your $2,000, you can have your engagement ring and your wedding ring back. You met your criterias. You are no longer in this marriage with this seller anymore. You're pretty much divorced. The house is yours, if you want to think of it that way. So you're going to get your money back, and you're only out $500. $500 from $4,400 to $6,600. By the time you close out the deal, only $500. That is a good deal. So now when it's time to leave, you are on an island. The unique thing about Hawaii is that Hawaii, yes, it's an island state, but it is also a state that has all branches of the service within a 20 to 30 minute driving area, all concentrated on one place. Which means that this makes it a great investment state for property, because there are always servicemen and women coming to and from the island, civilian government employees who support the services coming to and from the island. We are the #1 most employed government state. So this makes it a very good investment because there is, again, a lot of people always come to and from the island and secure employment. So if you decide to sell, it's easy. It's not very hard to sell out here. Somebody's always looking for a home to sell. We're on an island. It's small, so homes are pretty much scarce. So when stuff does pop on the market, it goes really fast. The other thing is if you decided that you want to become the landlord, there's always somebody moving to the island looking to rent and possibly not buy due to their circumstances. So great investment tool out here. You have the possibility of selling and taking your funds to the mainland and either upgrading in a home and having a big chunk of money to put down on that home so you can keep your mortgage low, or even the possibility of purchasing a home outright depending on where you're going to live at. Now the one thing is I would say that both these options are good. The renting option is good and the buying option is good, but it's only good depending on your circumstances and the time that you will have here on the island. If you're going to have under 3 years, I would not advise for you to buy a home. You're probably going to be out of pocket at closing if you do that. So not something I would advise. If you have 3 years or more, I would advise that purchasing a home is a really good option for you, and would sit there and say, maybe you don't want to look at renting. Maybe you want to look at purchasing for an investment, so later on down the road you can get that dream home in whatever area that you want. So again, just depending on your timing and everything, depends on what the best option for you is. If you know you're going to be here for a longer time, the longer you're here, the better option it is to buy. The shorter time you're here, the better option it is to possibly rent. So, but I wanted to share that information with you. Also, thing is that you need or would want to consider too when you're moving here is think about location of where you want to move. Know that if any of you are familiar with traffic and like LA and everything, kind of similar out here in Hawaii. Yeah, we're an island with not as populated as LA, but we're an island that's small that has a very dense population. So everything, the roads here, if you're not familiar with them, everything kind of leads to a main artery. So everything kind of like comes into like H1. And if somebody gets in a wreck or something like that, every road around here is blocked up. So what you have to do is you have to factor in your time too as well when you're leaving and where you want to live, because remember you're going to have to drive to your place of duty. So if you got to wake up early in the morning to get to PT and you got to get through the gate and everything, you're going to have to factor in what time you got to leave your house and what time you got to get through the gate. Because I can tell you out here, if I want to leave where I live, if I want to leave Eva Beach, and if I leave at 4:50 in the morning, I'm gonna be smooth sailing. If I leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's backed up. So just at 10 minutes, I could sit there and I could be somewhere within like 20 to 30 minutes, to where if I leave 10 minutes later, it might take me an hour and a half to get there. So definitely have to plan your travel out where you live. And it's like that all across the island. Doesn't matter where you live. You just got to plan it out because that's how the roads are out here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my information down at the bottom of my website. So you can visit my website, check out the homes that are on the market out here and everything, and get an idea of what your best option is before you get out here. If you like this kind of content, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm Ron, your Holo Holo Realtor with the Holo Holo Realty channel. Mahalo.